Nancy Martin, certified personal trainer and health coach. We're starting on a real exciting venture. I'm calling it Recipes for Bodybuilders and people who just want to eat healthier. I thought this morning I would start with what I'm going to be making for my family for breakfast, which is some blueberry applesauce oatmeal muffins. Alrighty, so we're going to start off here about an hour before you want to cook it or so. You want to take a cup of skim milk, and I just put it in this 2-cup container, and then add a cup of slow cook oats. See, that's just your regular, don't use quick oats. Put them in there, just mix them up and stir them in the fridge. As a warning, this is going to reduce down quite a bit. When you put it in, you're going to be thinking, did I put enough oats in there? Yes, you did. It goes down to about 1 1/4 cups, and that's okay. So that's going to be set aside in your refrigerator. After it's been in there an hour, preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and then we're going to mix together our dry ingredients. So I have here a cup of whole wheat flour. Now you can use any kind of flour you want, but I like whole wheat pastry flour because it's just got a lighter texture and it tends to turn out a more tender muffin. And I think this is one of the many problems that happens with bodybuilding type recipes, is that people don't get their mixing order correct. They don't go with the traditional mixing order. There's a reason things in baking are mixed the way they are. But also, they tend to not use the right ingredients. So if you use a whole wheat pastry flour, it'll turn out better. I found this one in the refrigerated section at our natural food store. If you can't find that, I would suggest trying to find King Arthur flour. But if you have to use regular, it'll be okay. Don't panic. People will still like it. So I'm going to mix that with a teaspoon of baking powder and a ½ teaspoon of baking soda. And then I'm going to go in for a ½ teaspoon of salt. Now my original recipe in this called for cinnamon, but I don't like the taste of cinnamon with blueberries. So if you want to put some cinnamon in here, a teaspoon, you can. So I'm just going to mix that up real well. And now I'm going to set this aside. Now we're going to combine our wet, and I always do my dry before my wet because I want to be able to have my measuring utensils clean for measuring the wet ingredients, and if I get them all wet with the dry ones, I have to go back to the sink, wash them, then come back so I don't get my flour and things stuck to my measuring utensils. So next we're going to take the milk and the oats that you've already mixed. We're just going to put these in a small bowl. And then I'm going to add in a ½ cup of applesauce. And a ½ cup of brown sugar. Now the reason that this is I'm just going to mix this up. The reason that I call this a recipe for bodybuilders is my ingredients are very whole. This is low in fat. There is some natural sugar in that, and for this reason, this is a really good recipe for those who are concerned about nutrient timing for right after your workout, because there's some simple sugars in here that will absorb quickly, and I would suggest having a couple of these with a whey protein shake for fast protein absorption if that's something you're concerned about. You can have it other times of day too, but that would be an ideal time for a bodybuilder. Okay, and I'm also going to add into this 2 tablespoons of regular sugar. I wouldn't do this if the blueberries weren't in it, but because fruit tends to sometimes give just a little bit of a tart flavor to baked things, you want to offset this. By the way, those 2 tablespoons of white sugar just add 8 calories and 2 grams of carbs per muffin, so no panicking allowed on that one. If you want to leave it out, you can. See how the flavor is, that's up to you. And then I'm going to also grab a teaspoon of vanilla extract and an egg. Now some people like to leave the egg yolks out. I use them, and here's another reason that bodybuilding recipes often fail. They use only egg whites. Now if I was using 12 egg whites in this, I would consider going with just the egg whites, because that would be 6 egg yolks. But I'm only using 1, and in 1 egg yolk there's 5 grams of fat. That is half a gram and an extra 4 calories per muffin. Because it's going to give such a nicer texture to the muffins and make the family actually want to finish them off, I say it's worth the tiny bit of fat that's added by doing 1 whole egg instead of 2 egg whites. I'm just going to mix that in there. And we're just going to get that good and combined. I don't want my egg to have any streaks of yolk or white in it. Okay. Probably could have whisked that egg up a little bit before I started. So now what I'm going to do, oh, I'm still not happy with that egg white. Okay. I'm going to take my dry ingredients and I'm going to kind of make a hole in the center. Can you see how I'm doing this? I'm making a depression in the center. And this is a regular baking technique that so often gets ignored with bodybuilding or recipes, healthier recipes. Big brutes will make these recipes and just dump all the ingredients into a bowl and mix them up, and that's why they wind up with really kind of tough and less than satisfactory results. There's a science behind why you mix your dry together and your wet together and then combine them. Alrighty, so we're going to add that into that depression in the center. Now I'm going to mix these until they are just barely combined. It's okay if there's a few lumps in here. It's going to get some additional mixing when the blueberries go in anyway. So we're just going to get these combined. And the reason that you put the well in the center and add it is that kind of cuts down on your mix time. It's a little bit incorporated already when it's added to the bowl. The salt doesn't have to be added. That's just for flavor as well as the vanilla. However, that's another one of the things I think that goes wrong with a lot of healthier type recipes is they eliminate salt, which eliminates a lot of flavor, and then people want to add butter when really all they're missing is the salt. It's the salt that they want from the butter. Okay, now I'm going to fold in. Normally you do a cup. I'm just going to take this entire container of, I don't know how much this weighs, but it's just one of those regular small containers of blueberries and add it in. As far as I'm concerned, you can't have too many blueberries in a blueberry muffin, and it is called a blueberry muffin. These are going to be about 100 calories a piece, almost all of them from carbs. So again, if you're wanting a protein source, this morning I'll probably scramble some eggs for the family, do some turkey bacon for myself and regular bacon for everybody else because they revolt when I make regular turkey bacon for them. So now I'm going to spoon this evenly into 12 muffin tins. Now you can use the paper liners on this if you want to. I've done that. The problem with that is that they tend to stick. So what I did was I just sprayed them with canola oil spray beforehand. You'd have to clean up the pan a little bit, but honestly, when you use the liners, you wind up with the stuff all over the edges, you know, where the liners aren't anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, this is an easier way since I'm going to have to scrub the outside of the pan anyhow. So you notice I'm not being real careful about how I'm doing this. I've learned that getting things into a muffin tin neatly is pretty much a futile attempt. You always wind up with a little bit slop, so just go for it, dump. I just get some in to start, then I'll go back and kind of even them up. Okay, so now we've got the tin all filled, and again, we're running over some of the reasons why this is going to be better than most recipes, healthy recipes that people make out there. We've got salt in there for flavor. We did a whole egg instead of 2 egg whites. And the other thing is we use leavening. I don't know why, particularly with recipes that use protein powder, people tend to leave the leavening out. I don't know why that is. but you need something that will make it rise. So that's where our baking powder and our baking soda came in. All right, so now I have got 2 tablespoons of turbinado sugar. This is an organic cane sugar, very minimally processed. The reason I'm using this type of sugar is because it's got a nice crunchy texture to it, and this kind of makes it taste a little bit more like the Starbucks muffins. And I'm going to sprinkle about a teaspoon on each one. Now you don't have to do this. However, this is an extra, actually this is a half a teaspoon on each one. So it's an extra 8 calories and 2 grams of carbs. So again, it's a little bit of an added calorie amount and carb amount, but for somebody who just got done working out, that's actually going to be ideal. And for everybody else, even though you're eating healthy, you still want your family to like it and eat it. If you're just presenting them with bland food with no texture, nobody's going to like that. And I don't even think I need the whole 2 tablespoons here. I just want a nice sugary crust on there. And honestly, organic cane sugar isn't something to be that afraid of. There's no chemicals. It hasn't been highly processed. It's just, okay, so I probably left half a tablespoon. And now we're going to put it in a 400-degree oven. And I'm going to let this bake for 20 to 25 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted in the middle of one of the biggest muffins comes out with no crumbs or anything on it. Okay, so the timer went off, and check on our muffins now. See how we're doing. Look a little sloppy, but when they come out of the pan, they'll be fine. Nobody will see all that gook. So I'm going to stick this into one of the biggest ones and pull it out. And see? No crumbs sticking, or very few. So that means it's done. Turn my oven off now. Grab another pot holder. I'm going to bring this out. And I'm going to let it sit right here and cool for at least 10 minutes before I turn them out and put them onto the rack to cool further. We could eat them at that point if we wanted to. They're pretty hot. So I'll see you in a few minutes when they cool off. Okay, so we've had 10 minutes for them to cool. And because of the blueberries, they tend to get a little stuck around the edges. So I'm very carefully with a knife, because this is a non-stick pan, just running around the edges of the pan, of each muffin. And I'm gonna, so it'll slide out fairly easily. Some of them sunk just a little bit when they cooled. That's okay. That's kind of normal with muffins. I think it has something to do with how the leavening got distributed within the batter. So I'm just going to turn it upside down. All but one came out. Turn them right side up. Let them cool a little bit more. Get this one out. There we go. And we can eat them whenever we deem them cool enough. For this recipe, you can go to my Facebook page, Recipes for Bodybuilders, or for just different tips on fitness and staying in shape and a good outlook on how to keep yourself healthy. You can also find my blog on blogger.com. It all makes a difference. I can finally turn them out. I took a knife and I very gently ran it around the edge of the pan, because this is a non-stick pan. I didn't want to scrape it. But they were a little bit sticky in there, as most muffins will be. And now I'm just going to flip them out.
I woke up this morning with this feeling inside